so much for joining me. I'm Jessica Kringle. Of course, most of you know me as Mrs. Claus. And I get asked a lot, what do you and Santa do the rest of the year? Well, we just do the same things that normal couples do. We work around the house, and we have a lot to do to prepare for Christmas. So while Chris is out there working very hard, he seems to have torn a hole in his hat. Not the beautiful one that he wears when he visits you, but one of the work hats that I make him. So it's time for me to make him another hat, and I thought that I just might show you how I do that. So if you remember in the 2016 Christmas videos, when we did Crafting with Claus, I showed you how to use these wonderful little knitting looms. Well, this is the big one. It comes in a set. We used the littlest one and we made a little snow person. So today I wanted to show you how to use the larger one so that I can show you how to make a hat. Now, this is the biggest, and I know a lot of people say, oh my goodness, that's way too big for a hat. Well, the knit stitch or the stockinette stitch that these looms make does shrink in a little bit. It's a stretchy stitch, so your hat won't be quite this big. But if it's for a younger person or maybe a lady with a smaller head, then there are the different loom sizes and you can use the smaller ones. Santa needs the big one. So the first thing that you need to make when you're doing a hat is the brim. And the brim is the folded part that goes around here. You know, Santa's brim is white on his hats. You know, a lot of them have the fur on them or they're all velvet. He wears all kinds of different hats. So when you're making a brim, you can certainly choose between different yarns to make it a little more exciting. I like to use this. It's called Fun Fur. This Fun Fur, when I make my own hats, makes it kind of soft and fluffy. But because this is so flimsy, because it's so loose, when I do this, I'll hold it with a nice sturdy yarn like this Red Heart yarn and hold the two pieces together. Remember, I showed you when we made the snow person that you really do want to hold two pieces together at once. So I'll hold them together like that, and that way I've got a little bit of strength and warmth in there, but I still get the pretty frill on there also. You can use a nice soft yarn. This is a little bit thinner, but it's also a little bit shiny, and it's very, very soft. I do love this yarn. And I'll show you some pictures. So here's a hat finished that I made with the Fun Fur, and here is a hat finished that I made just using the regular acrylic 4-weight yarn. And then here is a hat making the brim with the Lion brand homespun yarn. And it's a little bit yellow in color. It's not a perfect white. So with that one, I also held a true white yarn along with the homespun, made it a little bit thicker, but also kept it on the white side. Something else I've learned when you go into the stores to purchase yarn, you want to make sure that the label says white. Don't just look at it, because there's white and then there's soft white. And the soft white is a little bit more ivory or yellowish in color, and so depending on what you want, you can't just eyeball that in the store. You need to actually take a look. So let me clear these away and then I'll show you how to get started on your brim. Okay, so as I've mentioned before, you need to hold two pieces of yarn together. And so when you only have one skein, if you take the paper off, you can use one through the center like you normally would pull, and then the other one around the outside, and you just want to give yourself some space with it so it doesn't get all twisted. I've gone ahead and changed the tying knob for you so that you can see it really well. When it comes with one that's the same color as your loom. So the first thing we're going to do is tie a loop knot. So make your little circle and pull that through. And then we're going to tie this onto your knob there, the different colored one. And then when you're starting, because you pick bottom over the top, you need to go around this 2 times in order to create the first set or row. And so you're going to go clockwise around each knob, and I'll hold my little finger on there to sort of make sure it doesn't pop off. Now you don't want to wrap this too tightly because you have to pick with this little tool, and if you do it too tightly, you You can break your yarn, you can break the knobs here, or you can just not get it up over it. So you don't want it so loose that it pops off, but you also don't want to wrap it tightly. And with practice, that all becomes a lot more clear for you. So let me go ahead and go around this 2 times. Okay, we've gotten to the end, and remember that I showed you, again, in the other video showing you how to use these looms, that you need the line, the solid line of yarn on the inside of your loom. That's how that you know that you've done it properly. And then also, like I taught you, we're going to stick up your finger, wrap your yarn around your finger, and then just place it on that post right there, and then slide it over and give it a pull. And that doesn't tie it, but it'll hold it secure while you pick around. Now, this other knot that you've tied on, after you've done about 3 rows, then you can take that off of there and nothing will unravel. And then you take your little picker tool that comes with this, and you pick the bottom 2 over the top 2. And you're going to do this all the way around. You can see that I've not gotten it too tight because I'm able to pull these up actually quite easily for a first row. Usually that first row is really difficult and then the others become easier afterward. And I've been making these for a lot of years. One of the nice things that I belonged to a group that we made hats for the homeless every year. And so we'd get yarn donated from various people, and we'd go ahead and make hats. And then the homeless shelter would hand those out during the month of November when it starts getting cold in most places, so that people will have warm hats to wear. So when I got a bunch of yarn donated to me, I went ahead and made a lot of hats, and my elves made hats with me, and we all just got a bunch of hats done. I've gone all the way around. Kind of push these down. Now I'm going to show you when we change colors to red, this really amazing little tool that Santa and I came up with to help me get this done faster and a little bit easier on my fingers. But push these down just a little bit. You can do it as you go, or you can do it between, like I'm doing right now. And then back to the knob that's holding it. If you just kind of stick your picker tool underneath there and slightly pull it, that gently pulls off the one that we just wrapped around our finger to hold it secure. And then again, we're going to go counterclockwise around the loom, but clockwise around each little knob on the loom. And we're going to continue to do this for 5 inches or 20 stitches. And that's an approximation. If you want it larger or longer, or you like a thicker brim, then you can do more. And if you like a thinner brim because you don't want quite so much white around the top there, then you can certainly do fewer. And if you're using one of the smaller looms, you might want to do smaller or fewer as well, because the whole hat, to be proportionate, it wouldn't match up. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 20 stitches around my brim, and then I will show you how to finish that off by folding it in half and stitching it over, and then how to change the color to the red so that we can finish making Santa's hat. Keep his ears warm out there. All right, wrap it around, pull it down, and then do this again. Now remember, if you need to see more on how to do this, because I'm showing you how to make a hat, but I did go deeper into how to use the knitting looms in the 2016 countdown. So you can find that video called Knitting Loom for the Christmas countdown. All right, give me just a little bit to finish this up, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, so we've gone all the way around with our white, and we've made what will be the brim. This is either 5 inches or 20 stitches, and it's approximate. Some people like a thinner brim, possibly. Some might like it a little bit thicker. So now what we're going to do is find the string from where we originally started and go ahead and take that string and hold it right next to our little knob here. And that way you can make sure that you've lined it up properly. And then we're going to just take this top loop and put it onto the knob that's sticking up, and then do that consecutively around. Now, some people will go ahead and do the whole thing before they start picking over. I've noticed that sometimes they fall off if I do that, so I'll do a few. So let me do a couple here, and then I'll show you close up so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Just like before, you're going to take and pick your bottom over your top. Your bottom over your top. And I don't go all the way to where I just looped them over. I'll just do a couple and then do a couple more and go all the way around. And what this does is this folds your brim in half so that it's kind of thick and also finishes it. And then you can add your other color, and I'll show you that in just a second. So let me finish working this around. I'll show you closer up so you can see. Just a couple left here, and then I will pick the last of them to the end. I really enjoy doing this when I'm watching a movie, my favorite Christmas movie. Ooh, what's your favorite Christmas movie? I would love it if you commented below and let me know what your favorite is. But when you've watched a movie over and over again so many times for so many years, it gets a little bit easier to craft and do things while you've got that TV on that you like to watch. Okay, so we have our brim doubled up here. And now what we can do is go ahead and cut this. Now, I'm going to show you a special little treat. I saw someone using some kind of tube. Have no idea what it was. I've never seen one for sale. So I had Santa make me a couple. And so I took some pens apart and took out the pen mechanisms and went ahead and had Santa saw them shorter for me using his tools in his workshop. And then I used an emery board and filed them so that they were smooth. Now, this is amazing. Let me find my ends here. Okay, so I take the needle that I'm going to, that I will use. It comes with the kit, but also we'll use it to take the hat off when we're done. Go ahead and get both of your pieces of yarn through there. It's not very easy, but it's not impossible. And then you're going to push that through. And it does take a little bit of work to kind of work it through. You can try shaking it a couple of times, and sometimes the weight of the needle will get it through. You can also, as you push your yarn through there, give it some twists, and that way it keeps it secure. And then as soon as the tip of that needle comes out, then you can go ahead and grab a hold of that and pull this through, and then remove your needle. So now you've got both of your pieces of yarn worked through this little tube of some sort, and you could probably also use one of those really hard straws. I wouldn't use a disposable straw, but if you've got some of those plastic ones, then that would be fine. We're going to do this to start this color just the way we did before. So now I've still got these hanging down here. You've got a couple of options. Sometimes I can wrap them around here as I'm wrapping my new color and work them in. Also, it works to sort of put them inside of the brim. They just kind of get hidden in there. Or a lot of people like to work their threads in after they're done with their project by putting them through a needle and weaving them through. So whatever's easiest for you, whatever's your favorite way to do, then that's what I suggest you do. All right, so we're going to, again, leaving a little tail like we did in the very beginning, tie this in a knot, again, like we did in the beginning by wrapping it around your finger. Do this again, wrapping it around your finger and tucking it through. And then we will put the knot on the end there and pull it not too tight, but tightly. And then, unlike the beginning time, we're only going to need to go around once because you see there's already white here. And then here's the thing that's really cool about this. It can be a little bit, clumsy trying to wrap around each one of these. And I know that sometimes rubbing on my fingertips, they'll get a little bit tired, or if you've got longer fingernails. This makes the whole thing run a little bit faster. So you just grab your tube that you've created and wrap it around each of these knobs. And because it fits so nicely in between there, it goes very quickly. Okay, and then just like before, you're going to take your little picking tool and you pick the bottom over the top, all the way around. And you'll see that you're left with the red one because you've changed color. Now, of course, you can make these hats any color that you choose. This one is specifically for Santa, but of course, you may like to make these hats in your favorite sports team or just your favorite color. And there are ways to make them variegated and to put a different color stripe through the middle. There are all kinds of fun things that you can do with these and different hats that you can make. Now, this is the adult size for Santa's head. And I know a lot of people go, oh my goodness, it's way too big. It looks huge. Knit is a stretchy stitch, and so when it comes off of the loom, you'll see that it pops in just a little bit. So it's not as big as it looks when you get done with it. The other optical illusion, I think, is that when you are trying to decide how long to make it, sometimes it does look bigger until you take it off the loom, because when you pucker it, and I'll show you that, it does kind of shorten it a little bit as it's coming around your head. So it will look like you want to make it a little bit longer. It doesn't quite look Cat in the Hat-ish when you're done, but it looks a little longer than you would expect, but it shortens up really quickly. We are at the end. We're going to continue around for as long as you'd like to make your hat. I believe it's approximately about 9 inches. Again, I'm an eyeballer, and so I know that because I've made so many of Santa's hats while he works in his workshop, that this is about the size that he needs for his sweet head. So I'm going to go ahead and do this as long as I need to, and then I will show you how to finish this. Give me just a few minutes. Okay, so we finished this and made it the size to fit Santa's head there. And I just need to cut the string. You want to leave a little bit of a tail, but you don't have to leave a huge one. Then you will get your yarn needle. Now, this kit comes with a plastic one. And I will tell you that I've broken the plastic one because of what you're going to see me about to do. The metal ones, you can find them in the department stores for like 98 cents. If you do break the one that comes with the kit, or you buy a different kit and you need to replace it or you lose it, go ahead and go for the metal one. It's worth it, I promise you. We just need to cut a string of yarn. It has to be able to go around the loom without pulling out your work. So I go ahead and put it around the loom completely, and then I double it. Okay, and then I take the two ends, from our piece that's been folded in half. And we're going to squish those up really tightly and thread the needle with both of them. I like this to be extra strong because when I've gone to tie it, I have pulled on it and broken it. And that's really hard to deal with. So then what we're simply going to do is hold on to this so that you make sure it doesn't come undone. And then you just work the needle up under each stitch. You make sure that you go underneath both of them, and then you can go ahead and pull it off of the tab there, and make sure that you don't pull so tightly that you pull this through. So go ahead and you can either hang on to this or you can tie it onto the nib that's on the end there and just pull that off. And we're going to do this all the way around. Now you can see that sometimes the pulling of this, it's a little bit hard or a little bit tight. And that's how, if you're not careful, you'll break that plastic needle. So you want to be careful. Okay, we are almost to the end here. Just got a couple more to take off. I know the hard part is making sure that this doesn't catch on the other knobs that are sticking up as you do this. And last one there. Oops. All right. And there we go. It is out. All right, so then what you do is you take these two ends that you've just worked through all of those loops, and watch this, I love this. When you pull on them, whoop, it puckers it up and closes it, just like that. Just so. And then we're going to tie a knot. Remember what kind of knots we use? A square knot, right? Right over left and under. And then left over right and under. And then we're also going to tie this to the piece that was on there that we cut when we finished off that last thing. So another square knot right over left and under. And you want to pull these tight, but not too tight, because as I mentioned, I double this string because I've pulled tight enough to break it before, and that's kind of a disaster because your whole hat unravels. And nobody wants that to happen. All right, and then what we're going to do is work these. These don't need to be this long. This is a little bit wasteful. You can save those to work on a yarn doll. Remember when we made those back in 2016 for our Christmas countdown? You can look for yarn dolls on our Crafters Countdown page. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and two of these at a time. Go ahead and rethread this with the small pieces there. And then you find the little, I call it the belly button, but the little hole right there. And you're going to put your needle through there and pull those pieces of yarn through there, like that. And then do the same thing with the rest of them. There are 6 total, but 3 times if you can double getting them in your needle. I try to do 2 at a time. You can do 1 at a time as well. And then we have these little ones. Those are kind of frayed, and when they're frayed, they're more difficult to get through a needle. So sometimes it's nice to just give it a little trim, and that will help you be able to get those threaded through a needle. So you know, when we're using yarn or embroidery floss, sometimes we'll go ahead and get it a little bit wet before we put it through. That doesn't really work as well with the yarn, unfortunately. And because most of us lick our thread to get it wet, it's kind of more yucky with the yarn because you get little fibers in your mouth. Okay, so this one's a little bit small. Mrs. Claus did not cut that very long. Let me work that in there. And you can see that needle comes out of the center there. And then you pull. And you will have a bunch of threads here. Now, if you weren't going to put a pom-pom on here, then you would go ahead and put those back through your needle and then work them in so that they didn't show and so that they didn't ever pop out. But Santa likes a pom on his hat, so we're going to go ahead and make a pom. Now, do you remember how we did that? Also back in 2016, I showed a video, and it's on our Crafters Countdown page on how to make pom-poms. We used things like forks and, of course, the pom-pom maker. So here is the pom-pom that I made for Santa's hat. And we're going to take the needle, put the yarn through there. You can get them both through, that's ideal. And then, just like we did with those red ones, we're going to find that little hole that's at the top where the pucker was, put the needle through from the underside, and there puts your pom-pom on the top. And then what we do is we'll remove the needle, and then these other strings that we tied through, we'll secure the pom-pom by tying square knots in these so that everything is all secured and tied together. So right over left and under, left over right and under, and I'm going to tie that to each of these so that they are all secure. And then when you're finished, the choice is yours to, go ahead and just snip it and leave the little strings down. I don't advise that. What I advise you do is, and I'll show you with one of these. So we'll start with the white one. Thread your needle and then simply work this through. Now I like to turn my hat inside out and find the round parts here that I've worked before. Now you need to be really careful with the white one that you don't go in too far because it could show through on the other side. You want to make sure that you barely get it through the top of these stitches here. And I'll just go around the circle a couple of times. Okay, I've done that all the way around a couple of times. And then we'll go ahead and give it a snip, leave a little tail on there. I need to do the rest of the colors. And then there we have Santa's hat. Now, if you find that with your pom-pom you've got a couple of bits that are longer than the other bits, then don't be afraid to give that a little trim. You can certainly buy pom-poms in the store as well. They're harder to find this large, but you can find them. Some people prefer a pom and some don't. It's totally personal preference on there. And there we go. All right, I've got to go get this on Chris's head because he's working so hard out there. Even though it's Christmas in July for a lot of you and it's very warm outside, trust me, here at the North Pole, we still need to wear our hats. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me. I do hope you're having a wonderful summer, and I do hope that you will be looking forward to our Christmas countdown this year as we'll count down the holidays with a different little project each day. I'm not telling you what it is yet, but I'm giving some hints. So make sure that you subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss anything. All right, thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye.